Just 1 in 4 Australians with superannuation know their balance exactly and regularly monitor its performance. According to a UMR survey of more than 1,000 Australians, 37% rate their super fund as above average or excellent. Joining me now live is Industry Super's Director of Advocacy, Georgia Brumby. Georgia, thank you for joining us. So only 1 in 4 people know how much they have in their super. Why?
That's right. And it's a really low number. And I think when we talk about the why, Danica, I think, for most people, super is not something that is front of mind. It's a long way in the future. There's a lot going on in the here and now. Why would people be spending that energy worrying about something that they're not going to have to think about till 30 or 40 years in advance? But what this same research actually shows is that for those Australians that are engaged with their super, they're reporting higher levels of satisfaction overall. They're reporting that they're in a higher performing fund, and they're also reporting that they have higher super balances. So potentially what this is showing us is that those Australians who are engaging with their super, they know how much they have, they're making decisions about their super earlier in their life. This is translating into higher levels of satisfaction and critically higher balances. So while just 1 in 4 Australians do know how much there is in their super, we are encouraging them, Australians, this summer in this quiet January period, get in touch with your super fund, find out how much you have in your account, because this research really does show that it's critical to engage in early to get that better outcome over the long term.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting survey. What should we know when it does come to choosing the right super fund? Because it can be quite overwhelming. There's so many different funds out there. How do you know if you are getting a good deal?
Absolutely. It can be really confusing, and there are some good consumer comparison tools, certainly industry super funds, which our organisation represents. They allow you to compare the pair and look at what a good performing fund is versus one that's not so good. And the ATO has some tools as well. But critically, what you want to be looking for is a fund that has a history of strong performance over the long term. And we want to be looking at performance, the returns that go into your account after fees and charges. So what really matters is what is in your account after all those fees and charges have been taken out. So they're really two important things to look for. And as you say, not all funds are the same. There can be quite a difference. They're not created equal. And actually, our research shows that the difference between a good performing fund and a poor performing fund can be as much as $225,000 difference by the time you reach retirement for, say, a 30-year-old. So it's a huge amount of money. And that is why it really is so critical for younger Australians in particular to engage with their super now, make better decisions about, getting into a good performing fund, and they'll be the ones who will be reaping those benefits later in life.
And I guess, as you mentioned earlier, people are not really thinking about their retirement, particularly if they are young. So what are the benefits of making extra contributions early?
That's right. So extra contributions are a great way to reap the benefit of that compound interest. So, super is a long-term investment. You put that money in now, it might seem like a little bit, but it's going to grow and grow and grow over your lifetime into a really big nest egg. So again, for a 30-year-old, if you're putting in just, say, $20 a week, that could actually result in an extra $70,000 at retirement. So again, it doesn't seem like much, and I know cost of living pressures, it's tough right now, but $20 a week, a few coffees, if you put that into your super now, you could be seeing an extra $70,000 at your retirement. So again, that's one of the things that if you do get engaged with your super and you do have that little bit of extra money, or you can budget in a way that you can make it work, it can really be worth it.
What happens if you've got multiple super funds? If you've started a new job, you automatically enter into theirs, but you've got a pre-existing fund. What would be your advice?
Yeah, so multiple accounts can be a real drainer on super balances. And I know that so many of us have them because particularly, when we were younger and we might have been working multiple jobs and, then you start a professional career and you've got that old account from, when you were working at Safeway or wherever you were working. But the key is that if you have multiple accounts, you will be getting charged multiple fees and charges. And so what that does is it really just eats away at your hard-earned super balance. So what we would encourage people to do, and there have been some changes that have helped clean this up a bit, but again, get in touch, see if you can find old super accounts. The ATO is a good place to start. They have a consolidate your super tool where it will find your super that's out there. It may even find some lost super that you didn't know you had, which is a nice surprise in the new year, and it will consolidate it all together for you in the account of your choosing. Similarly, super funds will also have an option to help you do that for you.
Just finally, Georgia, have you got any tips for people to start engaging with their super funds?
So I think, so most importantly, obviously, find out where your super is and check how much you have. But in terms of then what to do, there's a few key steps that we would recommend. So we would recommend checking that you are legally getting what you are legally entitled to. Unfortunately, we do see a lot of Australians not being paid their legal entitlements when it comes to super. So check your payslip, make sure that it's going into your account. And that's matching up. And then consolidate your super funds, as we just discussed. So make sure you don't have any old lying around, put them together. You're going to get a much bigger return on your investment there. We would also advise making sure you're in a good performing fund. Again, we ran through some of those checks you can do before, so good performing fund. And finally, again, if you do have any of that extra money lying around, even $10 a week, if you can put that extra money into your super now, you're really going to see those benefits flow through by the time you reach retirement.
Georgia Brumby, thank you very much for joining us this morning.